One day I was at the Food Basket, which was a grocery store that my brother worked at. And we were at the magazine rack, and at the very top, I saw Ms. Magazine, and I just reached my little hand up and got it and came home and sat in my dad's big chair and opened it up, and I was like, la, 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 la. It all came clear. I grew up in Southeast San Diego, not the best part of San Diego. My mom was born in Beirut, and my dad was Lebanese too. In the 4th grade, I was playing with my best friend, and this really cute boy came in the room, and she lowered her eyes, and she started batting her lashes, and she sucked in what little stomach she had, and she beveled out her foot, and she started giggling, and I thought, what's happening? This is a medical emergency. She was like morphing like something out of Kafka. I realized then that there was a way girls were supposed to be, and something felt wrong about it, and really hard. I knew I wasn't going to be the girl who got in this play, so I would make the play. And I knew I wouldn't be the girl who maybe hung out with this crowd, so we created like a crazy, freaky drama crowd. I look back and I'm so grateful at the opportunities I did not have. I met Mo Gaffney. She ended up at my house one night after her apartment caught on fire. And we laughed all night, so I thought, oh, this is my woman. We started doing characters together and little improv. So we wrote what is now the Kathy and Mo Show. I convinced Mo to move to New York with no money and stayed at mosquito-ridden places. And we did it. Producers said to us, we think you're hilarious and we want you to have this run, but can you not put feminist in the description? It will make them break out in hives. It really was surprising to me. And we said, okay, but then we put feminist everywhere. We put it on the poster, we wore t-shirts that said feminist, we like had it tattooed on our faces, and nobody seemed to mind.
One, two, three. Okay, very nice. Sister, would you come over here, please? Just slide right in here for me, please, right here. That's a powerful instrument you have there.
Sister Act was my breakout role, and to hear Siskel and Ebert talking about you it was big and surprising. Being in Hollywood, I had a quick lesson that there was a way that they thought women should act and speak, and certainly a way that women should look. I'm not going to say that it wasn't a sad moment for me. It was. I think if you are always, and we are all always, too fat, too thin, too dark, too light, too old, too young, and just not how we're supposed to be. And if we aren't ever how we are supposed to be, we are not able to rule the world like God is intended. A lot of people didn't want to work with me because if they asked me how I felt about something, I would say it. I would ask for lines to be changed in scripts that I thought were offensive to me or to other groups of people. Then when I would go do press, I would talk about things I cared about. To choose having to be an actress and give up my point of view or my chance to make a difference or to do my part, I just am not interested in that. I was saying the same things in the 70s to a group of 8 people that now I get to say on a TV interview to 8 million people. I've found a way to move through a world that tells me I'm not right, but I feel right most of the time. My daughter is 19, and I get such hope from her generation. They sit in the kitchen and talk, and I sort of move back so they don't know I'm there, and I just think, oh, there is hope.
Kathy's in the house. This is fun. Okay,
Are we going to have snacks too? It's like a little party.
Okay.
Hello, my darling.
Hello, my sweet. I've got to tell you all that this woman sitting here is my hero. She is, yes, that's right. That's right. She is an artist, an activist, a empowerer, a mentor, a teacher, a dear, dear soul, and I have no words really for what this woman means to me, and I'm so thrilled to be
20
here.
really good words.
Okay, well that's good. So, Kathy, you have been fighting the fight for women's rights, equality for 2 decades now, more.
Well, more than that, I think. When I think, like you saw in the Makers, isn't Makers the greatest? I was such a fan of theirs, and I had watched all their collection of these really fierce women. They have the biggest collection of women's stories ever, and I never thought that they'd actually ask me. So when they did, I responded way too big. I was way overly excited. But like you saw in the video, I think when I was around 13, 14 in there, I started realizing there was a difference between the way boys had to be and the way girls had to be. And it didn't feel fair. It just was not right. It was no fair. I would tell my mom, it's no fair. And so I became aware of it. And also, like you saw in the Makers video, Ms. Magazine. You know, you all have the internet. So if there's something that you're interested in, or you want to find your community or your people, you go on the internet. But this was before there were like motor cars. There was like, this was not a time for that. So you didn't know that there was anybody else out there like you. So when I discovered Ms. Magazine, I thought, oh, there are a couple of other freaks that feel the way that I do. So I was really informed and filled and quelled by Gloria Steinem and Robin Morgan and all of the women of Ms. and all of the women of the women's movement in the 70s. And it was my lifeline.
And you've worked tirelessly ever since. And I'm interested to know how your approach has changed since the new administration has come in.
It's hard to hear tirelessly from you because we've been friends for this last year during this really interesting transition of from democracy to lack of democracy. And so it's hard to hear that from you because I feel like you do so much more than I do. But and I'm not tireless. I take lots of naps and things like that. I watched the Great Britain Baking Show. Have you guys watched that?
But how is your approach
specifically,
specifically towards you know, the challenges of the women's movement and equality? It's been progressing steadily, and then all of a sudden there's a president in town who wants to turn the clock back. And so how has your way of thinking about going forward from here changed?
This time is different from any time in my life. And I know Gloria Steinem very well, as do you, and she's 83 now, and I asked her the other day, is this the worst it's ever been? Hoping that she'd give me some sort of fortune cookie answer of like, everything moves and swells, and she said, no, it's the worst it's ever been. So I think personally as an activist, as a mother, as a woman, how I move through the world now is with a little more urgency. Like we've been plodding along to get equality for women, of course, for an equal pay, paid sick leave, of course, before us, the right to vote, and reproductive rights, and the ability to walk down the street without being battered and raped. And that is a constant struggle, and we've had some victories. But with this administration, I was talking to my husband in the car on the way home, and I was like, what's different is the truth has always been the truth. There have been liberals and conservatives and misogynists and feminists, but there's always been a sense of truth. Now it seems like there is no truth. So how do you know what to even go towards with your hope and your wish for equality when a lot of America... Oh, we have a little thing. A lot of America doesn't have the right information. So how do we talk to these people if they're living their life based on memes they've seen on Facebook? It's a challenge.
Well, obviously, you travel all over the country and you speak, and so that is one way in which she's trying to disseminate the truth. What would you say to people, normal, everyday people who don't consider themselves activists at all, who don't identify in any way as being a woman who has a voice that matters? What would you say to them?
It's such a good question, because people are under the misconception that an activist is born with a separate set of genes, that they're a professional activist, that they're very, very smart, which, P.S., you don't have to be highly educated. You don't have to have gone to Yale or Harvard to be an activist. All you do is identify that feeling of unrest in your gut, something that you just can't stand. If you just can't stand that our environment is going to hell, if you just can't stand that women are being beaten and battered and raped, if you just can't stand inequality, if you just can't stand racism and xenophobia and everything that's happening in our country, including, being attacked for religious beliefs, but whatever it is that moves you, you just take the next step forward. I don't want to sound like a bumper sticker, but everything you do matters. Everything you do matters. And you don't have to be equipped with a college degree. You don't have to go to some political school. You follow whatever it is that moves you, that you can't stand that it exists, and you just take the next step. You tweet it, you organize, just have some people over in your backyard. Well, it's New York City, we don't have backyards. But in your living room, you go online. There's something that you can put on your phone that's free called Make 5 Calls. You tell it what you're interested in, and it reminds you to make a call. You can donate if you have a little of extra dough. Marching. This march was the big. Were any of you at the march? Yeah, they're all over, yeah. One of the reasons this march was so big was because we were in such crazy despair and disbelief, but another reason was because of the internet, because you can connect to like-minded people who feel that same fire that you feel. So my message about being an activist is you don't have to be the smartest person. You don't have to be educated. You don't have to be hooked up with the grandest organization. You don't have to have a lot of dough. You know what to do. You know what to do. You reach your hand out and you help.
I want you to talk a little bit about the project that you're doing with Gloria Steinem.
I'm so lucky to be doing a lot of projects with Gloria Steinem, but one of them that we
They're besties, by the way. Besties. It's crazy.
But still, when I'm around her, I still have a bubble around my head that goes like, I can't believe we're friends. I can't believe it. Right now, we are workshopping a play that I created with my friend Amy Richards about Gloria's life. And the reason that we created it was for what we just talked about, to show people that Gloria was just a girl in Toledo, in lower middle class family, and just followed what her heart and mind told her that she was able to do in the world. She wasn't equipped with an activist uniform. And so that's what we're hoping in this play, is to show her life so that everyone who sees it believes what they can do in the world.
So you and I are both blessed to be mothers.
Yes.
And you have a daughter.
I do.
Which is a whole other thing, and I imagine is very meaningful for you given your activism. How have you seen her generation reacting to the threats and the changes in our democracy? And how do you think we as adults can support the younger generations, because this is a very drastic change?
My daughter, who is a feminist and very aware, she goes to the new school here, which is, pretend hippie school. It's very liberal. We like it. And she's an artist.
You don't have to apologize for being a hippie.
No, I mean, it suits her. And so she's very liberal and has an array of friends of different sexualities and come from all over. But after Trump won, which was a huge shock to us, I think you and I cried that night for several hours. She came into the kitchen and said to me, "We were Obama babies. We didn't know this could actually happen." And although we talk on Facebook and we intellectualize about the state of the world and the rights that we want to have, this is different, and now we need to really do something. I'm so sad that it took that for her to realize that, but I'm happy that her and her friends are dedicated to doing what they can do. They're really the only hope. The best, if ever I feel like I just can't even take it anymore from the news and what's happening in the world, I go to a rally and I immediately feel great. I get a bubble tea and I go to a rally and I'm so happy. But the thing we've been noticing is that it's all like 25 and under. And so there is so much hope at those marches and rallies. I mean, you just look and you go, okay, so here's the future.
And those rallies are having effect.
They are having.
I mean, that's the thing that I think is sort of the best example of how you don't have to be a full-time activist to enact change. I mean, every person who walked in any march anywhere has actually caused policies to change. I mean, when you think about that and said, I have something to do with that. I showed up. That's all I had to do, was I had to show up and support my fellow citizens who feel the same way. It actually is kind of beautiful to know that you have that power.
And it reminds us that the majority of this country are on the right side of right. What is the number of people who voted for Hillary Clinton? 6. Does anybody know? It's way more than him.
It's 3.5 million more than.
Yeah, it's 3.5 million more than him. So that, I mean, I'm not assuming that everybody here has the same politics as Debra and I. Please do, or talk to me later. Find me. But we need to remember that how much more?
3 million.
3 million more voted for Hillary Clinton. Can I ask you a question? Ooh, she's turning the tables.
What?
What the? Huh? So we're both in the industry, the show business industry.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that I fell madly, madly in love with Debra Messing was because during the election and after the election, people were sort of disappeared. And I think there is a fear, if you are a known person, that if you have a point of view, you won't get hired, or you'll lose your Twitter followers, or people won't buy your CDs or something, your DVDs, and you won't get cast, because I think the myth is, in order to be believed, this makes me laugh so hard, in order to believe that you're another character, you must move through the world as a ghost and not have any opinions. It's such bullshit. Oh, can we say that?
You just did.
Oh, we just did. And people also...
We're live.
And yeah. And people also say to us, like, you really shouldn't, you're an actor, you really shouldn't publicly have an opinion. And I say, well, if I was a plumber, would I be able to have an opinion? Like, what job could I have where I could speak my opinion? And granted, we have a bigger voice in the world, because sometimes we're on a talk show or something. But I think that's an advantage. I think that's actually one of my favorite things about being a known person, is because I have always and love being able to say how I feel. It doesn't mean you have to agree with me, but and certainly, you know, people say, well, then they won't come see your movie, and I say, okay, God bless you. There's a lot of them out there.
It's okay.
But you have been so, and a hero of mine. You've been so constant, so informative, so on social media, digging your heels in. You show up at every rally, every meeting, every council. I'm so in awe, and I wish that I could take that and spread it around to the rest of the people in the industry, that bravery, that right now knowing what's important. You have a son as well. You have a 13-year-old
I do.
Roman. And so this is what's important now.
I mean, you know, I that's why we're so simpatico, because we don't have to explain ourselves. We know what's at stake, and we know ultimately, in the larger scheme of things, what's important. And that's what gives me the energy every day and into 3 o'clock in the morning to talk to people on social media and be yelled at by people on social media. Is because I care, and like you said, I have a strong point of view, and absolutely, I do not expect most people to agree with me, but I think that, especially in times like now, that a dialogue is the thing that is most vital. So like you, I'm like, all right, if they don't watch my next movie, it's all right. It's okay. You know.
You know, it's so funny. Shout out to my Twitter followers because I don't have that many, but none of them are mean.
No, your Twitter followers.
They're so nice.
You know, the fans on Twitter, they're really special. And Instagram too. I mean, they're like,
Group.
they're all in.
Yeah,
all right.
they're not. They haven't called me names yet or anything. A couple of them.
Before we open
and I
it-
mute. I just learned to mute.
Oh,
You don't want
sweetheart.
to hurt their feelings, even though they're on a different side of politics. You don't want to
I
block
don't want to
them.
hurt those feelings. Oh, honey, I've moved on to block. I started with mute, and I'm just like, I know, I don't have time for that. Before we open it up for questions to the audience, I have one more question for you. How do you, this is one of those whoppers, how do you fulfill your goals as an activist, your needs as an artist, your role as being a present mom and a devoted wife and a spectacularly invested friend? How do you go about negotiating, prioritizing all of those things on, I'm going to say, even a week-to-week basis?
Cocaine.
I set you up for
Kidding.
that.
Just say no. Just say no. Here's my answer to you. I don't. When people say women should have it all and do it all, I think, why? Who made that up? What human being does it all? Every day, I put one foot in front of the other, and I am lucky enough to love my daughter and my husband and my dogs, and I put some time into them, and then I go and, you know, show up at some rally or hold a circle of women and then go direct something. And men shouldn't strive to have it all. It's too much pressure, and neither should women. You know, do what you want in your life and what brings you joy, and then you sit down and have something good to eat, and then you get back up. And so I don't have it all. I don't do any of it perfectly, but I don't require that of myself. That's kind of impossible. But like you go, what's there to do today? Right. And then you do that. And then sometimes you get a massage, and it's lovely.
Or facial.
Or a facial, yeah. But, you know, like I talked about before, knowing what to do as an activist, if you're in tune with that, that will inform your next move. Whether it's doing something for yourself, doing something hopeful, doing something that's love-filled or sex-filled or mother-filled. Oh, I said sex and mother in the same sentence. That's not good. Or political, or what has to do with your career, or writing. I have such a hard time writing, but sometimes I just sit down and do it. But it's what the next thing in my life asks me to do. But I don't require myself to do everything. That would be crazy. I would fail.
You have compassion for yourself.
And also, I know my limits. Like, you know, we're just people. Sometimes I walk out of the house, I'm filled with dog hair, and I haven't washed my hair for 3 days. And you know what I mean? Like, you do what you could do.
Well, I mean, we were just talking over there about, okay, well, did you read everything that's happened today? And neither of us have. You know, we have been doing other things. And I think the thing that comforts me is knowing that there's a huge community of like-minded people out there who are doing the work when you can't. Right. And it's not dependent on you. Nothing is entirely dependent on you.
And, you know, as you know, when you have a point of view, and if you want change, which I'm sure we all do right now, it isn't easy. There isn't a lot of success on a daily basis. You don't get awards or cash, and a lot of times you don't get results. But what you do get is the sense that you've done your best towards what you believe. Like right now, we're trying to I don't know if, well, anyway, we're trying to free the carriage horses in New York City because it makes me cry every time I see them. And we had some sort of success a couple years ago and went back, and now we're sort of going towards it again. And if you've lived as long as I have, wow, I sound like Helen Mirren.
Not a bad person to compare yourself to.
Exactly. If you continue, you see little successes, and those are what keep you going, but it's not always a bullseye.
How about that, everybody? I think that's a good, yes. I think this is now the time when people out here get to ask Kathy questions. Right there.
Hi. My name is Saraya. I'm from Venezuela. I wanna that you send a message to all the women there in South America that we live a big, bad situation there. So what you tell all the women there, they are fighting for our rights, for don't be in the debt, see the debt of democracy there. So I want to tell you that thank you because you will be the role model. Thank you for saying bad for my English because see you in TV, you make me feel like I'm beautiful. That because I was such bad depression. Thank you. You make I can laugh for myself. I can be like beautiful. So besides, I want that you send all the messages to all the women there in Latin America.
Well, you just said it beautifully. May I hug you?
Thank you.
Part of today is empowering yourself and knowing that you have a voice, especially for men, including men, but especially for women, and you have a voice, and you just voiced your heart and soul beautifully. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Hi. So both of you are wonderful activists, and you're both parents. And so I was wondering if you had a piece of advice or a tip to parents now who are trying to raise their children in this kind of, depressing time, so that our future generations can be more helpful. Like, what sort of advice would you give to parents now?
Well, on a micro level, I guess I would say to when you're in the home, to really focus on the values of compassion and equality and justice, and talk about those concepts. And now we have many examples in our newspapers that we can point to. And so talk about what's happening in the world. Kids are smart. They see it, they hear it. Let them be involved and let them know that they're safe and that they're beautiful. And regardless of who they love or what they look like or where they're from or their parents are from, or that they are equal under the eyes of the law of the land here, and to walk proud.
That was beautiful. Another thing that I try to tell Samia, probably too much, is that you feel like you can't matter. You think, what can I do? What can me and my friends do? All that matters is you. There isn't some big machine at work that's going to make everything okay. All that matters is you, how you feel, what you stand for, what's in your heart. And and you keep going. Don't take no for an answer. Don't give up.
Hi, I'm such a big fan of both of you. Debra, my mom calls you the modern Lucille Ball.
She is,
Tell her
isn't she?
thank you.
Yeah. And Kathy, you mentioned Gloria Steinem and your daughter, but I was wondering if both of you had any other inspiring women in your lives.
Kathy. Your turn.
Growing up, Lucille Ball, Laura Petrie, Carol Burnett, and Ginger from Gilligan's Island. Y'all don't know who that is. That was a long time ago.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And then for me, more as I did a play called The Kathy and Mo Show, a two-woman feminist comedy for about 20 years. And Lily Tomlin was a huge influence on that. I think we might have even stolen her form. She forgives me. But Lily Tomlin was one of the first ones to merge point of view and comedy, especially as a woman. And that just burst my heart wide open. So, and then Bette Midler, the reason I love Bette Midler so much is because I was talking to my husband about this in the car on the way here, is that Bette Midler represented someone who didn't look how a celebrity was supposed to look, didn't talk, didn't act, and designed her whole show authentically, didn't follow any of the rules. So for me, the person who has never followed a rule, still don't. I was supposed to wear heels. Bette Midler was a huge influence, both artistically and personally, on my life. And then, as a feminist, Gloria Steinem, Robin Morgan, Hillary Clinton, Deborah Messing. This woman here in the front row.
Okay, we have time for one more.
Hi. I mean, you're both such an inspiration to me. Ever since I was a little girl, you, from the parts you played to the example you've given to women all over the world. I'm from Greece. I used to watch you guys and be like, oh my God, thank you for giving such an example. But I wanted to ask you, how would you advise young actresses these days to go about, since everything is about the sexuality, and if you don't show a little skin, you might not get the part because someone else will be willing to show some cleavage or something. And such a struggle for us actresses to be able to make it if we're different. So my question is, how do you go about?
I'm going to say one thing, I'm going to let Debra take this one. Here's the thing to remember. You aren't different. You're the norm. What you see is different. And it's made. It's man-made, what you're seeing. You're not different. That's different.
Absolutely. And I would just say, you're an artist. Just stay focused on the art. As long as you are doing your work and you're disciplined, and I believe that talent will always be found and celebrated eventually. It's just a matter of having patience.
One more, just one more. I love this audience.
She's saying no. She's saying no. We got to wrap it up. Kathy, Najimy.
Debra Messing.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for letting me be here this day.
I love you so much.
I love you. And
What a great
makers.
crowd.
Yes,
Thank you,
amazing,
guys.
amazing.
Thank you.
We've got friends here.
Go on makers.com. Makers.com. You're going to love it.